Hi everyone, my name is Yash, and you are started watching Being Curious with Yash. This show is my personal hunch to learn more about the world and teach everyone in the process. So today we have a great author, Miss Muneeta Aneja. Uh, my friend recommended her book, Chhattisgarh, Land of Hidden Mysteries. So shout out to Divyasha Kothari. Uh, she told me that she has written, a great travelogue. She has traveled all across the state and, documented like a lot of things that you should not miss if you are like very much interested in history and all. So I started reading the book, and as soon as I started reading the book, I knew I had to do a podcast on it because like the pictures and the stories, uh, that she tells you through her book is just breathtaking. Uh, and the book, the first thing I like, it's written in the first person point of view. It's not like an encyclopedia, where you just read about it dispassionately. If person has written it in the first person, it shows that someone has a passion. So uh, welcome, Miss Meeta Aneja.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kothari. It is an honor to join it and be in this podcast. And yes, shout out to Divyasha for being such an incredible person.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So let's hope we can get her someday. She's very tough guest to have it in the podcast. So let's start it, Miss Anija. Like, can you talk about your like childhood and like how did you grow up, and like what were your influences when you grew up?
Okay, so I basically belong to a middle class family, and I have been surrounded by a lot of books while I was growing up. I had this deep interest in history. I was very curious about little things. Like whenever we used to visit an archaeological site or something, I used to be very curious about what would have been there at a certain point and how this would have existed at that point of time. And then secondly, so the influences I would say would be my grandparents and would be my great grandparents because the love that I get for my nation, you can say, comes from my great grandfather who had been a freedom fighter and he returned back to the soil of India approximately 1.5 year later on after the partition. Uh, so, like, I have always, been in that kind of state where I've been hearing stories about the partition of India and how catastrophic it was and how things were turning out to be. So I was always curious about Indian history and not just Indian history. Then I started delving deeper into ancient civilizations and ancient history and Paleolithic age, to Mesolithic, Neolithic age, and everything and all about that. And then I think so. The most influence that was exerted in my life was by my maternal grandfather, Mr. Late Ambika Charan Tiwari. So he had a lot of influence in my life as he was always motivating me. When you're a nerd, you don't get to express a lot in front of your uh, family or in front of your cousins or in front of your friends, I should say. You have a respect, but you don't get to express a lot. But my Nanaji was the kind of person who used to listen to those stories, and I always felt like whenever he used to arrive in summer vacation, I'm going to pour those stories on him. So he was the most amazing influence I've ever had in my life, and then I would be really grateful towards the four fathers and ancestors that I have had from my father's family who have always told me to, be a person of value than being a person of material, because being a person of value would somehow leave you with some kind of concerns. So therefore, that is something that I feel grateful for towards my ancestors.
That's very great to know. Like uh, like touching on this point in your book, that freedom fighter of like Chhattisgarh state, he has become the chief minister. So I was like very curious. I'm like, how did that guy from leading the freedom fighter movement to becoming like the chief minister? Like, and you had done like a couple of pages on him. So could you like?
Yeah, actually, freedom fighters of Chhattisgarh, what has happened is that before the partition, basically we were all princely states, and after the partition, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh came out as a single state, and nobody talks about the prominent freedom fighters of Chhattisgarh. So while I was compiling this book, I was like, we need to talk about these people, whether it was about Thakur Pyarelal Singh, who has been like people very rarely know that he has led the longest strike for 37 days for the Rajnandgaon mill workers. Or people have actually, they have actually seen the Jaistam Chowk and all, but they rarely know that Veer Narayan Singh was basically the first freedom fighter of Chhattisgarh, and he was publicly executed over there in that place. And talking about the first chief minister, he basically became the first chief minister of the reorganized Madhya Pradesh Chhattisgarh state.
Yeah, yeah.
Like not
Hmm.
Veer Narayan Singh, but the freedom fighter that we are talking about. Like it was after the declaration of an autonomous state. It has not been much time since Chhattisgarh has been declared as an
Yeah,
autonomous state.
I
So
guess 2000 was the time when it got. Uh,
yeah, 1st November 2000, when
yeah,
they separated six Goan-speaking states and they created a separate state for
yeah.
Chhattisgarh out of it. So very rare, we all pass the Jaistam Chowk in Raipur, but very rarely people do know the history that Veer Narayan Singh was, publicly executed over here, and that too he was executed because he stole grains for people so that they could live on it. And the Thakur Pyarelal Singh, he was called in for a dialogue with Mahatma Gandhi, and regarding how to include education and everything. So these are some of even there's a fair that is conducted in a place specifically in Dhamtari district where 75 villagers participate, and that is
Okay,
dedicated to Veer Narayan Singh.
okay.
But we do not talk about these freedom fighters much more, in a lengthy way. We do not talk about them, and that is something that I find really sad. We do not interact about them.
Yeah, I they should be much more celebrated, like, because like when you learn about those struggles, you learn about the values of freedom and all. Next point I really noticed in your book, like the pictures in your book are really good. What's the idea behind them? They are like, as you say, in high definition in modern language. So like, what was the idea behind them? And there are a lot of pictures for the people who like pictures in the book.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to apologize because you touched on the topic of the the first chief minister of the
Yeah,
reorganized Madhya Pradesh was the topic, and I just left it behind. So I would like to tell the name of that freedom fighter. He was Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we have a university over here by his name as well, just so that our audience does not get confused between Veer Narayan Singh and Thakur Pyarelal Singh and anyone. I would just like to mention the name of
Yes,
the
yes.
person. So, yes,
Mhm.
he was Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla, and he has contributed a lot in terms of Hindi speaking and all as well. So, talking about the pictures, yes, I myself covered, see, this research took me 1 year and 7 months approximately, properly, and I used to leave my home by 7 a.m. in the morning, and I've covered 180 to 30 kilometers in a day, whether it was Chilpi Ghati or whether it was Keshkal Valley. And I used to take these pictures. Obviously, when you're taking pictures, if you're someone who is, I did not travel with an SLR or DSLR. See, I had to travel very lightly because I also had to return back to home. So 85% of Chhattisgarh was being covered by the two-wheeler, and 15% of Chhattisgarh was covered via buses, the Dantewada, Bijapur, and Sukma districts. Apart from that, everything has been covered by a scooter. So I was taking these pictures. I had taken a lot of pictures. The original thesis that I produced was actually 1008 pages long, and it was not at all feasible to produce it at any cost. But I have like a lot of pictures of Chhattisgarh, and it was so fascinating to cover these pictures, to actually look at a Kirti Mukha design, to actually look at these marvels. And when you actually keep on looking at them in a continuous format, as I was looking, I started reading books of archaeology. It was not my subject. I was a student of journalism and mass communication. I started reading books of archaeology. I started knowing more and more about. I had to visit the museum because, I didn't want anything to just go out like that. I wanted it to be fact checked and everything. So it was fascinating to see such things right in front of your eyes. To see when you visit Rajim, you can see the inscription of stone, on one side. When you see that, you're like, oh my God, I am witnessing an amazing piece of archaeology right in front of my eyes. When you see the sacrosanct temple, 1500-year-old brick temple lying in a pristine condition, the Lakshmana temple in Sirpur, you'll be like, what an amazing work of architectural splendor this is. Because if I ask you, Mr. Kothari, in today's date, can you imagine any temple that is being constructed today surviving 1500 years from now on? We cannot. We cannot
Definitely,
imagine
we
these
cannot like
structures.
houses don't survive 20 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what I'm saying. The plaster is falling off, something is
Yeah.
coming out,
Yeah.
And then you see such structures that have been surviving since 2300 years ago and 1500 years ago, and you get a chance to witness them. So I was like, I need to bring this out. I really need to bring this out. In a land that has been cocooned in the raging issue of naxalism and has been stigmatized so badly that these things have never come out. When I was watching them from a first person point of view, I was feeling sad at some point that why are the research scholars or why are students who are as curious as you or people who have interest over literature, I may even talk about Divya Shah, or whether people who have hold over command over political science, or, you know, uh, are doing their studies in archaeology and on the stage. Why are they not promoted? Why are they not promoted enough so that they can put up this stuff? Why are they not funded? Because how much would a person do? They would do it for one state, they would do it for other state, then they're going to feel exhausted after a while, that I've done so much and I'm not getting that kind of
Yeah,
acknowledgement, or
definitely.
I'm not getting
Definitely.
funds to do that. So it was really, I definitely sharpened the images. I definitely gave a tone to the images and ambience to the images so that it looks perfectly well defined to be in the book. And it had to be aligned in a manner because if you have yourself seen the book, so we have kept like four images in the book because those four images had to be kept. But there are like many more images. If I would get to release a second volume, I would definitely like people to see those images as well, because what happens is you get a different kind of feel when you are actually witnessing the written content along with the visual images. You actually
Yeah,
see, for example,
definitely.
thinking
That
about
is
one
that
of
I
them.
was talking about. That you can relate. Okay, I read about this. Okay, now I'm seeing this. Otherwise, when you just read about this, you have to imagine. But these things are there. It's not a fictional story. Like everything is real.
Yeah, exactly. For example, if we are talking about Boromir and we are talking that it has a guru style of architecture, so immediately there's a picture on the right hand side that is showing Boromir and that is showing that kind of architecture. Okay, so people are getting a real life depiction of what it is, and that is what I wanted to be out there with the book.
That's really great. Keep publishing those pictures on your Instagram. To keep the curiosity in the audience for the next volume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But producing, if I would have produced a black and white copy, it would have costed me very less. But I wanted this book to go in a premium quality in front of the audience. It was a work that was approved by the Home Ministry. It was a work that had to be kept in the museum. I wanted, if I was representing the most latest version of my state, I wanted it to be put in that manner. It cannot, because producing this takes a lot of costing. You have to produce it in a HD glossy sheet. You have to select a higher GSM quality. It's fully colored because it does not happen that You can select few pages to be printed in black and white, and you can select few pages to be printed in color, because the document comes with the images as well. So the costing definitely rises, but people need to understand that at the end of the day, this is an image based book. This is a travel pictorial book, or this is an encyclopedia
Yes.
kind of book. So you are not getting muted in it. You are just entering into a different domain, different kind of book. It's not like a black and white general book like that.
I get it. Next thing I want to talk about, you have mentioned about like different tribal places and different tribal practices. I read like some of the tribal practices are more modern than, modern day societies. Like how men and women are allowed to talk to each other, like by their elders, and and after some time they can decide they want to get married and all. I don't think these kind of things happen in our in our modern cities. So like could you talk about like what did you find like so fascinating about tribal people and their culture and all?
Yeah, first of all, I would really like to thank you for reading my book in such a in-depth manner, because the person who wrote it, somewhere their heart brims with joy that somewhere someone is reading their work. Secondly, yes, my first visit to Bastar, and I was like amazed. As soon as I entered into the domain of Dakshin Bastar, I got to hear about the gotals and all. So we had to take the permission of a village mukhya to actually see what a gotol is. And gotol is like a village dormitory club. Now, I'm not a Chhattisgarhiya person, so my pronunciation for Chhattisgarhi words could be a little wrong, but its essence is not wrong, its spelling is not wrong. So gotals were like clubs where, like for example, the boys and girls are working since morning, and in the night they'll be collecting over there. Okay, and it's like a club where they are completely free to socialize with each other. They are completely free to talk with each other. And if they want to tie a knot, they'll go to the village mukhya and then seek his permission, and the village mukhya would talk to their parents. In some of these places, for example, in a much secluded region, like for example Narayanpur, and in some places of Dantewada, we got to witness that they even allow the practice of living relationships. The elders themselves advocate that without developing emotional bonding towards each other, if you people want to tie a knot, give it a try out first. So they would allot them a private, housing facility, a private hut or something, and they would live there for 15 to 20 days and see how compatible they are with each other. And if they are not compatible, they are completely free to leave the bond and move around with their lives. And if they feel that they are compatible with this arrangement, they can tie the knot. So I was completely amazed by the fact that how come these people are actually more futuristic than us. They are having these practices going on since 200, 300 years. So how are these people actually more advanced than us, and how are they sharing this kind of advanced psychology? And how the mukhya is clearly telling not to develop emotional bonding and be very uh, test the compatibility in all the matters, and how the village itself is functioning like a family unit, because the boys themselves become the groom's side of people, the girls themselves become the bridesmaid. It's like a completely different thing that you witness in Bastar. So it was like a different experience. And yeah, they were futuristic. They were futuristic in their thought process, much more than our people are. Much more than our people are.
Definitely, I'm very jealous of them. I think they need to talk to my parents. Yeah. Like they are more modern than us. I am definitely sure by reading your work. So in all those tribes, I was like very fascinated to read was like the Gond tribe,
Okay.
and its practices not spoiling the beans because I want people to read and then they will be more surprised. What we were talking was just 5-10%. The book is much more fascinating. So can you talk about the practices of like the Gond tribe to be specific?
Yeah. Definitely. So, Gond is basically the second largest tribal community in India, which is further divided into a lot of sub-clans as well. So, basically, there's an entire belt of Gondwana, and when Chhattisgarh was separated, there were like six Gondi speaking states prominently. And the Muryas and Abuj Muryas and all of these are like the various sub clans that are coming out of Gond only. And the Gondi language is actually something which resembles more of a Dravidian language, which connects more with Dravidian language and not with the northern languages. And
Dravidian
another
means
thing,
the Tamil languages, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the southern languages. It has more resonation with the southern languages rather than being particularly from the southeastern belt, I would say, or rather than being from the northern states. So that is something that you'll find very fascinating because if you go to Bastar, you'll either find the Haldi people who are talking in the Haldi language, or you'll find the various versions of various subclans of Gonds who are talking in this language. And there are three words that echo around them very loudly, and those are Parsapen and Seva Arji and Koitur and Lingo. So Kupar Lingo is basically their god. So see, they have these animated gods, you know. So Kupar Lingo is like imagined in a form of a clean shaven young prince who wears a trident munshu over his head. Okay, so this is their depiction of Kupar Lingo, and these people believe in Seva Arji. These people believe in serving their ancestors, and they have a different kind of setting. Earlier, Gonds used to bury the dead. The Gonds had a system of burying the dead, but with the pace of time, they started, as um how should I say, with the Hinduization of things, or I should say, with the lack of space and everything. They started with the funeral process as well, but earlier it was all about burying the dead. If you'll enter into the domain of Bijapur district, you'll instantly find graves where somewhere you would find an aeroplane made, or something like an astronomical thing made. So these people have practices of making very 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 unique items for their ancestors. It's like a very different spirit that you get over there, and they make it for free. Otherwise, if they're making it for someone else, they either charge some rice puff, or they either take some maua from them. And
What is Mahua like?
Maua is basically a fruit. So
Okay.
it's if you get to if you drink its fermented drink, then it becomes alcoholic in as it becomes an alcoholic beverage. But otherwise, maua juice is consumed frequently in the southern part, or I should say, even in the southern districts of Chhattisgarh. So maua juice is something that people drink during summertime as well, which is not a fermented drink, which is just to keep you out, to protect you from the summer stroke and everything. So
Okay.
maua is basically a fruit. So people in Chhattisgarh mostly depend on agriculture or forest produce collection. So maua
Okay.
and tedupatta and all of these stuff were one of their forest produce comes under one of their forest produce,
Okay. Okay.
like that.
That's really nice to know. Like, um, it's a very fascinating tribe to read about. Like, and the practices it.
Yeah. And even they have like even among the Gonds they have like different communities. One community, Kashyap community, is authorized to protect the tortoise. There would be one community that is authorized to protect tigers. There are many subclans. There are many subclans. When it forms the second largest tribal community, it really means a lot.
Yeah.
So this is the thing, and they are not even vulnerable, or they are not even driven to extinction, like I would say, which is happening with the Baiga tribes in Chippigati and all. They are quite made their space, and they have their own culture and everything like that.
That's a very nice thing to know. People are like flourishing and different tribes are also flourishing. And I actually read like the new chief minister is a tribal person, and so it tells that if you can conglomerate, like be together, you can be a very powerful force.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He has been a tribal minister as well. So now let's see what happens because even before the elections, it was about that no one has commented on land reforms. No one was making a comment on their manifesto about what they would do about land reforms exactly. So that's a very difficult thing, and that's why we witnessed certain Naxal attacks as well after the election only, even on the day of our minister, like our chief minister, was taking his oath, I guess.
Okay, okay.
So it is basically they are a little troubled about their land reform rights and stuff like that.
Yeah. And they should be like, because like I think with their land comes their practices and with their cultures. So like I think there should be a balance between in getting more industrialized and also helping them preserve their culture.
Yeah, yeah. This is definitely a thing because uh, if I have to be like really honest, when I was making my way through Dakshin Bastar, I realized that, for example, in Bastar, if you're entering into Jagdalpur, these tribes are so inviting in nature that if you tell them that you want to drink amat, amat is like you can call it a Chhattisgarhi sambar that is prepared in like bamboo shoot. These people would make amat for you, no matter how poor they are. Okay, people who visit from foreign lands, especially during Bastar Dashera, they request them to make chapuda. Okay, sorry for the Chhattisgarhi people if I'm not speaking chopper or chapuda. I don't. It's called red and chutney. That's all I know. And I'm a pure vegetarian person, so I have not had it. But it's very, very famous in Chhattisgarh, and foreigners can even eat it raw. And the Chhattisgarhi people eat it in a roasted form. So they say that it's very tasty, and these people are willing to go and take out those nests, those ant nests, and start making things. And they're very very simple in nature. When I was reading the case studies, I got to know that even the Jiram Ghati Valley accident I'm sorry, accident, the mayhem that happened, the Naxal attack, 75% Naxalites were from this region, Koraput region, and many Naxalites have infiltrated from the Telangana region. The tribes of Chhattisgarh are very, very simple, and I would like to mention that they are very simple in nature and they are very poor. Women out there are walking without blouses, children are walking there without shirts. Just the thing is that they are so poor that they do not have a problem in striking a gulal if you give them 50 rupees. The
Hmm.
thing is just this much. If they're at their absolute desperate condition, they do not have a problem in doing that in only 15 rupees. But yes, there are certain tribes which are very, very secluded in nature. And then there are certain tribes which are inviting in nature. For example, if you meet the Bisanhon Muria tribe, they're an amazing tribe. They have this wonderful, what do we call, uh, cornies and peacock feathers, and they have these buffalo, uh, yeah, what should I say? The buffalo crown hanging over their head. And it's beautiful to witness them because they tell you to join in their dance, and they're very inviting in nature. They're very simple in nature. I got to interact with many people of their tribe, and I found them to be like very, very, like really amazing people. And no one
That's very
actually,
nice to know.
no, no one is actually stopping the tourist and all. It is just that people need to understand the political connection and certain things that would that are connected with stigmatizing Chhattisgarh. And Chhattisgarh is not a land that should be actually stigmatized.
Yeah,
It's just
like
that.
after reading this book, I'm definitely going to visit there a lot of times because it's very fascinating. Like,
Definitely.
yeah.
You should definitely visit, and I'll definitely recommend you. to go and meet these people, like when you see their hearts, they feel very excited. When they see someone coming, they feel very excited. Scandinavian people, Australian people, Japanese people, they do sit. Okay, whatever they are,
Hmm.
whatever they are able to communicate with the help of the drivers and all, they say it. And these people are very inviting in nature. These people are very, very good with them. So
That's
you
very
should
nice.
definitely
Yeah,
visit,
definitely. I
especially
think
when
like
people.
first Indians should try to go and talk to them, understand their issues. The Americans
Yeah,
and
I
the
think
Australians are coming.
Bastar Dashera is a very amazing time when people can definitely visit it. It is the longest festival in the world as well. So it starts with Navakhai and it ends with Dashera. And there Dashera has got nothing to do with our kind of Dashera. It has got nothing to do with the Ravana killing and everything. It is all about the worshipping of their local of their local deity, that is Mata Danteshwari, and they bring the Chhatra, the umbrella of all their local deities, all these people, like the conglomeration of all the deities together. It has got nothing to do with Ravana and all. And if I have to tell you, Ravana Dahan is prohibited in Bastar and the region of Dakshin Bastar and Sukma and Bijapur. You would never find it. It was the only once that a Ravan Dahan was taking place in Jagdalpur, and these people completely spoiled the event because they consider themselves to be from the lineage of the Asura clan, the people of southern Bastar.
Like lot of references to temple were also given. You like talk about like the temples and the engravings on the temple that were very fascinating.
Okay, so you're talking about just the temples that I'm referring in terms of Ramayana, or you're talking about the temples in general, the archaeological marvels in general?
No, both. Yeah, because I was seeing, there was a Hanumanji temple and I don't remember. Um,
Okay,
it
I
was a
got
very
it. I got it.
fascinating temple to read about. Uh,
You
Not because
mentioned about
know a lot of about like a lot about lot of temples, but that was very different kind of temple. And and the engravings on the temples were also very like very like how it is there in Khajuraho, the sex symbols and all, like so. Could you like talk about it?
the temple that you are mentioning about Lord Hanuman is the only temple in India that is in Girjavan, Ratanpur, where Lord Hanuman is worshipped in a female form.
Yeah, that
So there
that that one, that one. Yeah.
So that is the temple that you're mentioning, and it's absolutely a spectacular sight, and very rarely people know about it. But it is a very different kind of temple, and it actually appeared in a dream of one of the kings who was leprotic that there would be a murti would get excavated, and that murti was excavated from the pond, and it appeared to be Hanuman, but in a like Chiranjeevi Hanuman, but in a female form. So people have a lot of belief in visiting Girja Band as well, and that is a very very different kind of temple. And talking about see how Chhattisgarh is such a unique blend of paradoxes. I do not understand. Even while I was reading the proper version of Valmiki Ramayana. I read that the Dandak forest have been mentioned, and the Dandakaranya belt actually goes through Chhattisgarh. Okay, and it is said that the trio, Ram, Sita, and Lakshmana, spent major time of their exile period in the Dandak forest. Even Alexander Cunningham, who is like who is like the former head of the Archaeological Survey of India, who has conducted most of the archaeological excavations that have been pondered upon in this book. Most of the archaeological excavations were done by him only and his assistant only, J.D. Belger. So even he stated that according to him, Ramgarh is the area which was the original Chitrakoot. And there are like so
Okay.
many places which are said to be associated with Ramayana. Now, half of the Chhattisgarh believes in the fact that this is Rama's maternal home. Chandrakhuri is from where Kaushalya has basically arrived. She was the daughter of the Chandravanshi king, and she got married to Dashrath, and this is Rama's maternal home, and that's why you see the complete Ram Vangaman Path building and all. Now, I have to be very, very precise in indicating this thing to the audience as well, that mythological folklores are mythological folklores, and they are derived from mythological legends, and therefore I would not like to mix them with archaeological evidences. Okay, so mythological facts are something which are based on myths. Okay, for example, Shabri's Bed, or we talk about Shivri Narayan, or we talk about Turturia. We cannot mix mythological things with archaeological things. These mythological beliefs are coming from all the regions. Okay, for example, somewhere in Maharashtra, there is a place in Maharashtra also where someone claims that. Shabri appears from that region. But it is actually very, very predominant that Shabri was basically a Gond woman. And there's a temple also in Shivri Narayana that features Shabri. Her 10th century model is over there, and with a coiled snail on her hair. Just look at the intricacy, just look at the intricate details that have been made. Uh, and then, if I'm talking now they'll now come and see. Just look at the paradox that the lower division. When we talk about the lower division of Bastar, people are saying that they belong from the Asura lineage, and no one is actually practicing Ravan Dahan. And just let's look at the upper division, that is like Sarguja, Bilaspur, Raipur, and Durg. These divisions, people are practicing Ravana Dahan, and Chandrapuris, like people are calling that this is Rama's maternal home, and the trio passed from the Gandak forest, which has been clearly mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana as well. There are like 14 to 17 exclusive places that are associated with Ramayana, and those have been mentioned in the book as well. And some of them have been archaeologically stated also by Alexander Cunningham. So Alexander Cunningham is a person we cannot take jokingly, but nevertheless, debates would always go on among states whether from which region do which person comes from. So I would not like to go into that section either. I would rather I would talk about the archaeological kingdoms that like the archaeological traces that have been found here. So starting from the Sarab Purias, like Manar is the most ancient town of Chhattisgarh. So starting from the I myself went. It's the ASI. The Archaeological Survey of India has protected that uh, special 2000-year-old ancient idol because people here have a very bad practice. I think so. People all over India have a very bad practice, and I would really like to make a mention of please not doing this. Please don't put tikas on the ancient stone idols. Please don't do that. Please don't write your name. Please don't write this loves this on the ancient idols. Please don't do
That's
that.
very
Please
crass.
do.
Like I've also seen that. I've like in a lot of places people write names. I don't know why do you write names, bro? That's so
Someone
stupid.
who is like someone who
Pe-
loves
for your
archaeology, I was
information,
like, someone who
people write names in toilets also, so they can do whatever they want.
like, I
It's
can
such
accept the
craziness.
thought. I cannot expect it in a 1500-year-old idol, and I was like, oh my god, literally, did you really did that? Like there was this 2200-year-old idol, and anyone from the name Amit, please don't get offended. Someone just wrote Amit loves Sonam over there. And I was like, wow, you just made it very, very distorted. I
Yeah,
have no idea how people from 1500 years from now on would be considering
that
about
Amit
that
loves Sonal.
thing.
He truly does.
No. So kudos to them. But okay, so the most ancient, there was a 2300-year-old ideal of Vishnu with a Kodambi, that is a mace of his own size. And I had to take the special permission of the head of archaeological survey, the head of archaeology and archives department to especially see that because it's preserved in a different museum in Malhar. It's not supposed to come in the sight of people. And I was amazed by the kind of things that have been found over there. There were Shiva Lingas with 108 Shiva Lingas made on top of it. And then there were Smarta Lingas. We all know about Shiva Lingas. We all know that Shiva Linga is basically Shiva, then it's Shakti, then it's Brahma, and then it's Vishnu and Brahma. It's like a compilation of four gods. It's like an energy. So, but there's a different kind of theism of Hinduism that exists in Chhattisgarh, and that is Smarta Lingas. Smarta Linga is basically where there are five stones. Like in Shiva Linga, you see that there's one linga that arises from the yoni, and then there are the parts of Vishnu and Brahma below it. But Smarta Linga is a different kind of theism of Hinduism, which was
Okay.
practiced at some point, and it's very fascinating to find the traces of it in Chhattisgarh. Uh, in Mungeli district, there's a place called Matpuri from where these ancient excavations have been brought on. And you can see Smartha Lingas over there. So Smartha Linga indicates the presence of five gods which are considered equivalent. That is Shakti, Vishnu, Surya, Ganesha, and Shiva. Okay, so they basically indicate that these are the five gods and these are considered like these are revered. So it is very fascinating to find Smarta Lingas, Shiva Lingas with 108 Shiva Lingas on it. 108 Shiva, like there's a big Shiva Linga and then there are 108 Shiva Lingas on top of it. The Narsimha images and the Varaha images are absolutely beautiful. The depiction of Ambika, like even if you see the Jaina sandstone structures, they are very very beautiful. Statues of Adinath and Tirantakaras, the main major three Tirantakaras, they have been carved so beautifully, and all of this has been stored in Malhar because Malhar is considered to be the most ancient town of Chhattisgarh, where this most ancient ideal has been found. And now it basically lies in ruins. I was even very sorry to see certain very good ancient ideals lying in a very dilapidated state just outside. And it was very hard for me to see that because they were literally in very good condition. They were in sacrosanct condition, and I was really sad that why are they just lying down in this kind of condition? Why are they not even put up, or why are they not even put up in that museum that lies over that area? But no one has that kind of time. No one has no one wants to do this kind of stuff. No one is interested in even promoting these places anymore. These places are devoid of light. These places are not promoted. The GPS does not detect them properly. It's very hard to even find them. This is where we lack. And starting from the Sarapurias, then you find the presence of Somvanshi dynasty in Sirpur. So Sirpur was considered like the ancient capital of Dakshin Koshala. And Sripura basically means the city of wealth. And even the Chinese traveler, he mentioned, Yuan Tsang, he mentioned that this area is of 6,000 li and it's completely surrounded by mountains and it's beautiful. There are approximately these many temples over there, out of which we have found very less. But if you see the Lakshmana temple that was built by Mahashiv Gupta Bala Arjuna, it's a 1500-year-old brick temple that's lying in a sacrosanct condition. And there are four doors, that is like Gyan and Karma, like all of that. And then there's a Buddhist monastery because Mahashiv Gupta Balarjuna was the kind of king from the 5th, 6th century, like who believed in, he was basically a Kshatriya by nature, but he actually promoted Buddhism as well.
Okay.
So Sirpur is of that kind. And in Bastar, the entire Bastar, like 99% Bastar considers of sites of Shiva sect. Like the temples are of Shiva sect. There's only one Vishnu temple that dates back to the 11th century, and that is the Narayan Pal Vishnu temple that you'll find in Chitrakoot. That is the only temple that has been dedicated to Vishnu. And apart from that, Ratanpur has a lot of legends associated with it. But what is more fascinating is that Ratanpur was the ancient capital of Kalchuri. And you'll find some very fascinating carvings on top of it. For example, there was an carving where Ravana was sacrificing one of his heads in a yagna, and that is like something very very amazing. I did not even see a clear depiction of the trio of Lord Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita anywhere. I'll be very honest. I saw the depiction of Venugopala Krishna everywhere, but I was very much shocked that when this was Rama cities and everything, then why are the archaeological temples not depicting? Do not have a depiction. Like for example, there were depictions of Garudas and Lakshmi Narayan. There was Mahishasur Vardini, and there was Uma Maheshwari. There were images of like every temple has a very different type. The temples that have been built by Kalchuris have an underground Garbhagriha. Their features are very different. The heads are a little tilted. The jewelries are kind of given a local ensemble, have been given a local touch. So Kalchuris have ruled the region for the longest time. So
Okay.
their temples are completely different from the ones that have been built by the Somvanshi Empire. If you see the Surang Tila in Sirpur, you'll be like, I have been exported into some Greco-Roman city, something like that, because it's completely composed of white mammoth brick, and it looks like you have entered into a different world. And even after surviving the 12th century earthquake, you'll see that the staircase has been a little curved because of it, and you have to actually crawl to reach up to the top destination. But it's very, very beautiful. So each and every place has a distinct vibe. In all regions, you can find the remnants of the Kalchuri temples, and you can see Kirti designs. You can see the underground Garbhagriha. Most of them are, I would say that Chhattisgarh is a place where Shiva and Shakti was much more, worshipped. But whereas the two most prominent temples, I would say the Boramdev temple has depiction of 10 forms of Lord Vishnu, is built in a Guru style of architecture. There are temples like Dev Baloda which lack a spire, which lack a proper, like a complete shikhara. They have been built in a Nagara style of architecture. The Devrani Jethani temple has been built in a Kushana style. The Devrani temple has been built in a what do we say, the Guptan style. So there are traces of so many, like it's an amalgam of the clash of empires. It's an amalgam of the clash of empires. There are so many ancient debated ideas with that even archaeologists up till now, there are discussions held in the museums and they're not able to reach up to the conclusion that what it would be all about. So it's very fascinating, starting from the 2,300-year-old ancient ideals to the 1,500-year-old brick temples in sacrosanct conditions to the Jaina ideals that are like 1,200 years old and 1,300 years old in black sandstone, absolutely looking beautiful in Arang, to the Buddhist monasteries, to the, I should say, to the Shiva and Shakti temples. Like it's a very, very rich place. Like just imagine that 3,000 feet, 3,000 feet atop. There's like in the Dholkar pit, there's a Ganesha. Just imagine that 3,000 feet atop. Who would have erected that Ganesha figure? Nobody knows that, and that fact has never been discovered. That who did that.
In present time, I don't know how people do it in 1,500 years back.
Yeah, you have to actually trek for approximately 5 to 7 kilometers to reach up to that
Okay.
destination. And then when you'll see it, you'll be like, who actually did this? Like it was found very later on. I think it was found in the year 2001 or something. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have clearly written it in my book. I'm dealing with a lot of facts here, so I could be wrong, but it is in Dantewada. And like people go up to the mountain, and only there's one Purohit who worships the Ganesha over there, standing over there, and the Ganesha lies in a good condition over there. And how is it possible is something we need to question ourselves for. So it's the Nagavanshi temples can be seen. The Nagavanshi temples are quite simple compared to the Kalchuri temples. You can always see that the temples, that the Dwarpas of Chhattisgarh are Ganga and Yamuna. Ganga would be on a turtle, Yamuna would be on a crocodile, beautifully sculpted with jewelries and everything. And then you'll see that there are, the Nagavanshi temples. They are very, very simple, but they have a coiled snake, which indicates that they were built by the Nagavanshis or the funny Nagavanshis. There are rotating Shivalingas here as well. That
Like
is very
they were
fascinating.
doing branding like before we could even think of. Like this is
Yeah,
our
they were
brand, we
actually.
built it.
Yeah, that
make
that is
make
that is
mention
very
of it.
fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is very fascinating. They were actually doing branding.
Mm.
So even for Surang Tela, what happened was that that an inscription that is properly preserved in the Raipur Civil Lines Museum. That inscription, that copper plate inscription, was found in the Brahmi script, stating that there is a there is a fort in this region. And when the excavations were held, that absolutely white mammoth structure with five Shivalingas with this much. structure and all was found out, was discovered. So it was by their copper plate inscriptions and all that we got to know about them.
Okay.
And then later on, it got ruined. After like in 17th century, the Marathas came, and after that there was not much that could be done. And then the British advent of colonization and stuff. Though I would say that the Britishers have played a very major role in the excavation of these archaeological sites, because after what they have given to us, I don't find much more archaeological studies or unraveling of archaeological things that has been done from our departments and stuff.
So I'm not spilling much beans on your book. I think everyone should, do buy your book. It's a fascinating read and the pictures are amazing. So I would like to know like what is your upcoming work and like what are you looking forward? Like can we expect a part two of this?
Uh, I really want the government of Chhattisgarh to acknowledge that someone has spent like their resources, their funds on conducting a research on a state, and I would really acknowledge. I would really be very grateful for the states if they would consider me a potential person to conduct the studies on their state, and I could delve into deeper studies of archaeology and ancient history and bring out uh, because you rarely find people who can do the documentation, interview, research, paraphrasing, editing, photography, as well as the writing work as well.
Yeah.
So I actually would really like if the governments, if different state governments realize, or if the Indian government, or if people, if private monetizers, or if people who want to get, a research on their state or something like that, like they understand that there are people who want to do this, because I think because I am really fascinated. I feel like I want to do this for every state in India. I really want foreigners to know what India is all about, because whenever you'll meet a foreigner, they know only two places. They only know two to three places hardly. They'll talk about Bombay, Delhi, or Calcutta. They don't know much more about. So I want that true spirit of India to come out in front of everyone and it's very hard to find a person who can document, research, conduct interviews, and photograph. Take pictures as well. I want to write. I want to make these kind of documentations more. I want to conduct these kind of researches more, and it would be my privilege and honor if state governments start considering this, and it does not become an affair of endless letters waiting in endless folders for so many months, and people actually start considering the potential of it. Even if someone supports this work, or even if someone is buying this book, I know that I am not making a lot of margin with it. I know how much I'm spending on it. I know how much hard work I've poured on it, and I'm literally not even taking for my hard work. I just want its reach to be more, so that I can spread a word about the state. So if people start understanding, if people show an interest in understanding their own country, in understanding their own states, then first of all I would like to highlight some underrated states like Mizoram or Orissa and all of that. Otherwise, in future, I definitely write articles on the revival of folk art, or whether it would be about you know the the people who are performing the Pandavani, and there are articles that go about archaeological sites or heritage sites. But definitely, I would like, when I have myself written a book now, I want the states to consider that this is something that requires a lot of monetizing, that requires a lot of fuel, accommodation, parking tickets. Now, if I'm taking the pictures and if I'm editing it, I'm spending my data on it. I'm if
Yeah.
I am sitting in Microsoft Word for these many hours, if I'm sitting in my laptop for 22 hours, I'm definitely consuming electricity. How much fuel is spent for going, like 180 kilometers to 230 kilometers a day? How many times I have suffered where, due to thermal heating, my scooter has just broke down in midst of nothing, in midst of no lights or anything. And it would be like a deep request to the Chhattisgarh government to kindly have proper lights. Like these are like 1500-year-old sites, 1200-year-old sites. Please start putting proper labels. Like you don't get to know about Sirpur is about to arrive up till and unless you have entered into the Mahasamund region, and then there would be a little indication of Sirpur is 24 kilometers inside. What is this? How would people get to know about it? There is no proper promotion and advertisement. So I think so. There should be proper promotion and advertisement of places. Like they should take examples from Madhya Pradesh tourism and Karnataka tourism and Gujarat tourism because these have done some excellent work, I should say, in their own field. And I would like people to at least consider the fact because when I was working with the Times Group, I gave I when I was jotting down articles, I used to feature a lot of bloggers from Chhattisgarh who had written anything or who had even just taken pictures, who didn't actually write anything or even just took pictures. But the same people, when I wrote a book, refused to even put up the shout out for my book. And I felt like a little bad because there was support pouring from all over the world. There was support pouring from all sides, and I was watching my own people, the people that I had featured, the people that I had featured for the raw talent, for the upliftment of things, not actually understanding it. So that was a little sad, I think so. Like just imagine that. Just imagine for a second that. There's a picture of I have no grudges against it, but I just want you to, as a person, as an intellectual person, I want you to consider this fact that a child who has actually uh, sung a song or a part of a song for Badsha has got more leverage than people like late Dr. Jaydev Bhagat, who have actually brought out the art and the art and craft of Chhattisgarh. They he does not have much mention. He is the one who has brought out this fact. You don't know about names like Vicky Kshatriya or Ritu Verma or Tijan Bai is someone who was still able to come out and grab many awards, but it's very sad that people who are actually
So
the
true,
raw
so true.
talent, people who yeah, people who should be interacted about, how many people are actually celebrating them? How many people are actually celebrating the fact that someone is trying to work for their micro tourism, someone is trying to work for their income generation. If people would come, it would be your work that would get promoted. So how many
True,
people are
true.
actually thinking about that? We need to understand that. There are very good like right now when the G20 delegation came, the kind of presentation that was given to them was horrendous. Why is it that people need to meddle with politician and like politics and bureaucracy so much? Why is it that you need to put your children in front of the delegation? Please present when you are bringing a foreign delegation into your country and they're exploring the museums. Please bring a person, bring a student of ancient history, bring a student of archaeology, bring a student who is frequent in speaking English, Hindi, understands Chhattisgarh, whatsoever it is. There's no, I'm not saying about any language or so, but when you're representing your state and you've got one chance, why is it that someone with only a famous dad can enter into that domain? Why is it that bureaucrats and politicians are trying to put their children over there for no reason at all? That does not make any sense, right? That is very
It's
sad.
very sad. Actually, it makes very sense because they want their children to go abroad and not study about their state. And that's very sad, like
Yeah,
you grow up, you actually made a lot of money from there, so you should work for the upliftment of those people also and upliftment of everyone. But first, I think they should be a priority, and it's very selfish.
exactly.
I hope they learn
Just
from this
just
podcast that you know there are people who are trying to research, who are trying to learn, and you are trying to showcase what the different states of India have. So you get a lot of funding also.
No, it's not about funding at all. It's about you keep the funding in your hand. But there are a lot of processes that go on. So you aid that person by providing them with a proper driver so that they can research, document, photograph as much as possible. Just give them the bare minimum. Just look at the talent. Just look at the youth of your own country. They're plundering with rich potential. Try to give them an opportunity and see what they can produce. Just try to
True,
give them
true.
an opportunity. Just try to give them a platform. So these are the topics that have been put forward by ministers like Shashi Tharoor, but I don't think so many people take it very seriously, and
Like funding, I
especially
mean to
in
say,
Chhattisgarh.
uh, funding, I mean to say, like funding for your work. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
funding so
yeah,
that you
that
can,
only.
do more such kind of research and uh, tell everyone.
Exactly. Now it's difficult for me to even collect, like even keep 10 collected versions of my book with me, whereas I should have at least 10 copies available with me, but they are always on a pre-order basis. When someone orders, I have to go out and get them published and all. If the state would have even sponsored a person who has bagged a gold medal from their state for 20,000 or 30,000 rupees, like you- how much would your state grow if you even keep this book as as something, they try to keep this Helen Keller book and Gulliver's Travels and whatsoever things. Why is every state not keeping a book on the history and on the cultural and social what should I say, diagram of their state
Yeah,
as a second book in your school? I'm not saying it should be mandatory, but it should be like environmental studies, like in the way we used to study environmental studies or IT as extra subjects. So this is
true, true.
something that we need to consider. People do not know about their state at all until and unless they actually devour into that subject, and then they get to know about it. So
True, true.
proper advertisement and promotion needs to be done for the sites of Chhattisgarh so that we can witness more micro tourism over here and employment generation, because
Yeah, true.
39.93% of Chhattisgarh's population is impoverished and is actually living below the poverty line. And we really need to consider that fact. We really need to think about it, that why is it so? And the only way we can help them is by sending tourists into their regions, into these villages, so that when they enter these villages, these people start understanding that the tourists are flocking. They'll start keeping barriers, they'll start keeping incense sticks. 76.67% population is rural, right? So they'll start keeping these stuff. They'll start holding eatery stalls. Then they'll see that the educated tourists are arriving. Now, Dantewada and Bijapur, which are the third and second most illiterate districts in the nation, they'll see that, okay, tourists are coming. They have no problem from tourists at all. When they'll see that the tourists are coming, they'll get an awareness inside themselves that they have to send their kids to school because they need to know the bare minimum Hindi, because they need to know the bare
Yeah,
minimum
true.
calculations and stuff.
Hmm.
They'll get an awareness inside them. This is how you'll make the happiness index of a state rise as well, and this is how you'll make the income circulation of the state rise as well. According to NCRB 2017 data, you yourself, I guess you're from Bhilai, right? If I'm not wrong.
No, no, I'm not from Bhilai. My friends are.
Okay, your friends are from Bhilai. According to NCRB 2017 data, Bhilai was the city with the highest suicide rate. So we need to
That's
consider
very sad.
what are the causes of it. Yeah, that's very sad. And there are a lot of figures. See, there's a lot of alcoholism in the state. There's a lot of alcohol consumption in the state, and that basically comes from boredom. That basically comes from the fact that, okay, we are going to depend on forest produce and agrarian stuff and all, and that does not happen. These people need to get some kind of, motivation. When they see tourists flocking around, they'll have this motivation. They'll start making toys. Why
Yeah,
are
yeah.
why are people in Boramdeo and Dongargarh more comparatively more in a good state than compared to the ones in Tala and Matpuri? because they are getting the motivation because people are visiting these sites. So they are sitting with stuff. They are selling their stuff. Right?
Yeah. I get your point. Like, and I think people need to understand that, for employment, tourism employment, these kind of things should be promoted. If people will know, if I got to know, then I will go there, watch and be fascinated by it. So a lot of people will also know. So I wholeheartedly support your venture,
Definitely.
and I'm definitely going to Chhattisgarh sometime soon to meet my friends and all to also visit those places, because I think it will be in my memory for very long time.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Yeah. So,
Definitely.
very thank you, Muneeta. And I hope to see you again on the podcast, Being Curious with Yash.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was truly a delight and a pleasure. Thank you so much. These were some very interesting questions. And I really love to be here on the platform. And I wish you all the very best. And I wish that you have all kinds of amazing podcasts and you bring all sorts of new information in front of us. So wishing you all the
Thank you,
luck in
thank you.
future. And you
Very
visit these
thank you.
sites soon and let us know how you feel about them.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Thank you.
Thanks.